said that Russian forces struck port facilities, energy infrastructure, fuel storage used by Ukrainian military. Meanwhile, a huge fire erupted at a Lukoil Korobkovsky gas processing plant in southern Russia after a drone attack occurred overnight. Russia's defense ministry has reported that its air defense forces downed 19 Ukrainian UAVs, including 9 at the Volgograd region, located about 600 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Volgograd Governor Andriy Bosharov has stated that the drone strike damaged several boiler houses and sparked fires at energy facilities. The Korobkovsky plant, the largest gas processor in Russia's southern federal district, has a capacity of 450 million cubic meters per year. Much of its output, including liquefied gases and stabilized gasoline, is exported. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Mark Sutherland. He's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Mark, for joining us again. Good to see you. Mark, we are seeing a significant shift or a significant moment about the peace plan that is to take effect soon about Gaza and Israel. Do you think if the world comes together and stands behind Ukraine or Russia, do you think this kind of peace plan do you think this kind of thing can be achieved for Ukraine and Russia as well?
Ashima, good to be with you. Well, we saw over a month ago, where President Trump had met President Putin in Alaska. Remember that there had been under the Biden regime, there had been no effort to reach out to Putin after the Russian invasion in February 2022. That discussion happened. We have to go back to the first Trump administration. And as Donald Trump has constantly said, I have a relationship with Putin. We don't go back to the accusations of Russia, and Trump is in the pocket of Vladimir Putin, which he is not, and all this. Why do I say this? Is because Donald Trump, I believe, is a little bit exasperated by this. When you talk about in regard to Gaza, the war that Hamas started from Gaza against Israel on the 7th of October 2023, yes, he has a very keen personal involvement in that as soon as he came in to work hard to get the hostages out and to end that war. We could come to that. But in regard to Russia, Ukraine, we have a theater of war. Russia invaded. The European countries are looking at how to step up their GDP increase in regard to spending on military hardware. This theater of war has continued, sadly, since 2022, and until then, Trump coming on the scene in the second administration, you would then see a genuine, I need to reach out to Putin. Sadly, he thought that he could solve this in a number of days, in only the way that President Trump then talks about that. But credit has to be given, because he has tried to then have this conversation. We've seen Zelensky in there as well. When you say if the world all came together, well, I'm not going to start singing John Lennon's song, Imagine. But the key is this: is that the war, we all want that war to stop, but at the moment we cannot see any sight of that, especially when there could be Tomahawk missiles going into the situation. There are far more than resources that then will then be given to Ukraine. This has already cost billions of dollars, billions of euros. You have to remember that the European countries economically, they are on their backs. They're not in a good place whatsoever, and particularly within the UK where I sit, and when there are the needs of the population. So we need people to come to the table. We need this to stop. Remember, the Russians have lost a million men. That doesn't seem to bother them, but it should be bothering, and I'm sure it does, Russian citizens in there to say where are our sons? Where are they? We also, as I was talking earlier, Korea has lost quite a few soldiers. North Korea in that region as well, as they even announced, their full support for Russia. So sides even more. There is even more countries involved in who is buying fuel from Russia, whether that's via shadow fleets, and respectfully, whether that's India continuing to buy fuel and then sell it on the open market, and then you've got European countries that are also still buying fuel without announcing it too loudly. There are a lot of players, and people just have to make a decision. Are we going to stop this, or are we not? Or does it just benefit our military-industrial complex? Even though no one has promised to put boots on the ground yet, or maybe that will happen, and then it escalates it even more. Because if then the European countries then find that their soldiers are actually getting killed in that theatre of war, then that also has other pressure in regard to the voting public in those countries on them. I painted an arc, Asima, that in many ways is complex. We've just seen, of course, other attacks on the Ukrainian infrastructure, and vice versa. It's continuing. It's tit for tat, as we would say, and two sides facing off. We have got Russia has taken nearly 20% of the land there. It's complex. We want people to come to the table and to stop this. But as President Putin, in his 73rd birthday address, has said, this is going to carry on, and that looks as though that is the situation that we are in.
And
Asuma.
Mark, so today we heard from President Zelensky that U.S. and Russia are very far away in terms of aligning about this. It does seem like U.S. is not as maybe enthusiastic, or it has a lot on their own plate as well now that the government is shut down, etc., etc. So do you think there is any other country that can bring them together and to talk and negotiate peace between them?
American administration, Donald Trump has taken the lead on this. He's taken the lead on this is because no one else was doing it since February 2022. In his view, that under the Biden administration, without going over Burisma, the Hunter Biden laptop and all that, which is real, and also those relationships in there from the Democratic Party, that no one was actually dealing with this. And that is why Donald Trump has led the way on this and has been frustrated by this. Things will continue despite the government shutdown and the fact that the Democrats have decided to go with their lunatic left-wing fringe and not negotiate a deal and actually put the American people first. But as I say, America has been leading this, but also America is very concerned because they want the war that Hamas started with Israel to end. We want all the hostages out. They've been working hard on this. They also want the Ukraine-Russia war to stop after this invasion, because America has the big concern that they have is to look to China. They see China, as I said earlier on the channel, China as their threat against the hegemony of America, against America being number one economically. And they see that as a threat. They've had 4 years of the Biden regime where 11 to potentially 50 million illegal aliens have come over the border. That's why they are dealing with all the internal disruptions that are happening within America. This is an ideological fight, and I could say respectfully, if we would need ours, that is going across the world, where it's looking at tyranny building in various countries, and I would even say over the control of UK citizens over here. They end up going down this whole road of digital ID. There is so many things to play for that is actually going on, but in America, they know who their number one enemy is, and that is China.
Yes.
Asuma.
Thank you very much, Mark, for sharing that. Please stay with us.